I am the court jester. I was right. Maybe you should turn the camera on before you start filming. Hey, it's Chris. So what are we talking about today? Biggest retail game. This is probably the biggest retail month in terms of name value, as well as actual gonna rip money out of your wallet like you haven't seen before of 2025 yet. And here I am back at it telling you why the freaking deuce you should not buy these games, right? Oh, it's a fun one. We're hyped up. We're ready to go. Big names, big prices, big commentary. As always, knee-jerk reactions all over the place by me as well as Board Game Geek and users of the games in the first place. And the only one on the internet's telling you don't buy this stuff. Because, I mean, that's what our hobby is, right? Buy. These are awesome. 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 Let's talk. Okay, pumping the brakes. Let's get right into it. And a lot of these this month are big crowdfunding names, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars total, finally hitting the retail shelves. Ooh, right? Right. We're going. You have to remember, it'll still be there 6 months from now. So you don't need to buy it now. You still can. Nothing wrong with that. No judgment. But again, just hesitation. Yellow light Chris, as they call me. I made that up. Let's go. The Witcher. Go on board. Path of Destiny. Become one of the characters taking part in the iconic stories of the Witcher saga. When this ran, I said, why does this have miniatures? No one commented on the preview videos and the impression videos. This is a card tableau driven game with a skill checks. Why do you need miniatures? It's about as worth it as Far Away with the stupid meeples I idiotically pre-ordered that do absolutely nothing but placehold. They're fancy book holding place marks on the tabletop, right? And I have seen a fair number of people selling this already. Fair number on the secondary market, because this was also not a cheap proposition. Somewhere between like $150 and $200 for this all-in, even gameplay, aesthetic, blinged out version, whatever copy you got. And yeah, I mean, I'm not just saying that. People are weighting it right now at a 2.27 on Board Game Geek. And as I'm always told by the comments section, and you guys are lovely, thank you very much. I mean this not sarcastically whatsoever. And there is this discrepancy of not wanting to pay Godzook's amount of money for lightweight games, right? Like, I get railed all the time about, DC and Marvel United. You're paying how much for how light of a game? You paid how much for a 2.27 rate weighting game right now? I don't know. 1 to 5 players, best with 3. It's tableau card building, folks. It's Witcher, folks. That's why it raised Godzook's amount of money. I haven't seen anyone say this is the most impressive system of a card tableau system out there. If it didn't have the Witcher IP, would you have even given it a second glance? That's the big question mark. And with this one, I'll separate this out from the previous Witcher Go On Board situation from the old world, because I think they were doing some clever things with the unique card-driven mechanics, move around, story, asymmetric situation, fighting monsters and all that jazz. I'm not so sure with this one. I mean, the main big criticism is just that. It's play the cards you're given, screw the story. It reminds me very much of the other gaming style system that was very, very similar in its approach of Call to Adventure, where they're giving you this idea, they're giving you this pill to swallow that you are crafting a story, you are crafting your hero. Really, you're just point optimizing the narrative, the story, the thematic layering on in the first place. You just toss it out the window the second you're trying to win. And that's the impression I get from a lot of the comments right now on Board Game Geek and a lot of the reviews I've read. So, I mean, again, is that a make it or break it for you? It's quick, it's snappy. I mean, it seems to be streamlined and people like that sort of thing. But apart from that, the depth of decision making is not going to be there for you. And yeah, I guess maybe it hits the table easier because it's more streamlined and light, but for the price point, is that a price you are willing to pay? Speaking of price points, though, we're going to Galactic Cruise from Kinson Key Games. This is the wet dream, heavier and slobbering in a saliva spilling everywhere manner, more than I have seen in a long time. Second only probably to Andromeda's Edge and the gushing that came from that and is still coming from that. And again, I don't say that as a bad thing, but holy expectations, right? This is one of those games, though, I think, that is going to be misconstrued and misconceived in the first place, especially with something like Board Game Geek, right? This is not basically any of these other games that we're going to talk about in this video, or the vast majority of games, where almost anyone can get into those games. Again, narrowing it a little more wide, whatever it may be. The only people that are going to get these 4 weight rating games are the people that love them in the first place. The selection bias for this is so incredibly high. It's a stereotypical example of those who are buying it are the ones that are going to love it in the first place. You're not going to be getting opinions from probably a lot of people who are like, yeah, I play Wingspan just routinely as the most complex thing. We decided to dabble into, no! Harmonies is my favorite game, and then we just jumped into, no! And that's not bad. But you have to be aware of the grass is always greener. This is exactly what this is. I have seen hype everywhere so far since backers are getting it, right? This is the best thing to hit Euros since sliced bread. You are watching it through the optics of other people, like a social media prime example of Facebook, where all they're going to tell you is the good stuff. All you're going to see, you're not being catered to of what your interests are in this regard. And do you want to spend upwards again of $150 for this? Best Lacerda that's not a Lacerda. That's the comparison. Do you have enough Lacerdas? If you do, give it, well, a look-see, because you're probably in the mindset for one more because you can't actually have enough, which begs the question, you should maybe just wait for the next great library from Lacerda to come out whenever that's going to crowdfund later this year. Or, you know what, you can wait for the next crowdfunding campaign because they've already announced another separate expansion to completely and utterly cover your table with this game because it's that freaking massive. Then, speaking of hype, Critter Kitchen, Cardboard Alchemy's follow-up to Flamecraft with a slightly weightier and less vastly wide mass appeal caricatures of anthropomorphic situations. Gathering your ingredients, getting food challenges, impressing celebrity critics. I would be amiss if I did not tell you that I've had this one on my radar as I wonder if my kids would like this style of things. But at the same time, I just don't know. This isn't my type of game, which I guess is a good thing, right? It's attracting people like myself who wouldn't normally be looking at it. When the majority of the comments are, I love the aesthetic is super pleasing. Because then it becomes harder for me personally. I'm sure you guys are a lot smarter than I am. I am the court jester. I am the classroom idiot who has a hard time separating out, are we, blurring the ratings of gameplay and aesthetic appeal make me feel good and warm and fuzzy inside? Or are these truly indicative of then feelings of how good it may be later on? The other thing I have to worry about is when you start playing a game like this with the simultaneous draft, worker placement, Euro resource management, up to 7 freaking people with an expansion, base game plays 5, I worry about that. So, I mean, again, it's not a big issue. Is it going to be enough in terms of hidden programming that you're going to enjoy it? It's going to get in the way. You're going to clash at these areas in order to not be able to do what you want and action optimize. How big of a deal is that for you? Because again, I do not ever recommend buying games for artwork, buying games because of theme. That is a fast and horribly practical way to end up with overarchingly great amount of games that you will not like. Again, it's a plus. It's never the main reason, though. And so that would be my only question and concern, is that a year from now, are people going to be looking at this one as fondly because of the gameplay rather than just I like the art and the aesthetic? So take that for what you will. Finally, though, we are seeing one of my best games of 2024 become widely more available in North America. I know, yes, overseas you guys have had Spectacular available for quite some time now, but as a dice-driven sort of pseudo-worker placement game, I love it. My wife loves it. It's a fantastic two-player game. I would make the argument 2 and 3 is great. The drafting and passing of the dice can be completely and utterly chaotic. The screw you potential nature of the tiles and the dice that are left between your own board and the boards that are being passed is very tenuous. At the same time, it's just a nice little puzzle. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't do the board smorgas, point salad buffet situation that often plagues these type of games. It's just enough. It's just enough to whet your appetite. And I'd make the argument that a 7.3 overall is probably a little bit low for this, but it's sitting in the 2800s and somehow also a 68th ranked abstract game. So I guess, when theme really doesn't matter. But it sits at the exact same weight rating as Witcher Path of Destiny. So if you now have the availability, is this your style of things? Give it a look-see, but again, it's not going to be the great strategic layering depth game that you're looking for either, as illustrated by one, my ability to understand it, but then two, that weight rating that we were just talking about. So it might just be too light for you ultimately, however decently good it is, right? And you don't want decently good for you. You want amazeballs. Gosh, I really don't know what to make of Elden Ring, though, from Steamforged, since we're talking about big properties. It's still getting review bombed, but I've seen some actual really positive commentary coming out of this, and it's showing up in a wide retail aspect. So you can pick your core and see how you feel about it. As the main criticism right now being that just the rulebook lacks the depth and clarity that these overarchingly more complex crawl type games are requiring. Because, 30 pages isn't enough, but how many is too much? The main selling point seems to be the rune system, but the concern again with that many expansions from the get-go is that the depth and the layers of the variability in terms of all of the cool stuff you want to do in a crawl type situation of equipment, spells, weapons, just isn't quite what it should be. The other aspect of this that has to be mentioned, just like when I talk about my Marvel Dice Throne, which is sitting right down next to me at the table here, is how much am I paying for IP extra surcharge, right? And I feel like there is an element of that with this game, with the cost that it was to get maybe the potential replayability. It gives me very much vibes of Village Attacks, which I talked about last month on the channel as a review with the Grim Dynasty Reborn, as that campaign was going simultaneous, right? It's self-contained, kind of okay. Very similar to even, say, Zombicide White Death. But I really felt like in both those situations, and that seems to be one of the apt things that's being brought up right now with several of the criticisms online, is that you need some of the other stuff. And it's not that it adds extra stuff to take it over the top, and not that it makes a really, really good game absolutely fantastically amazing, but it's like, okay, well, I feel like these should have been incorporated. There should have been more of this in the first place. And that's what I worry about, right? It's one thing if I'm saying you have to do that with Veil of Eternity, where you're buying a $30 base game and a $15 expansion. It's another thing when I look at these prices online and I say, okay, even the dinged and dented versions are costing you over $100. Right now, Card House, at the time of me filming this, Weeping Peninsula, $101. Realm of the Grafted King, the main base game, on sale at $170. Dented and dinged, you get 20% off, but similarly, Stormvale Castle, $110. So can you buy a core box game for $170 and pay another $110 for now $280 to feel like you have a more complete situation in that regard? And again, this is a fraction of what Elden Ring is comparatively on the actual console side of things in the first place. So are you going to feel like there's a sunk cost fallacy there to get more of it to feel like you're complete, especially going back to the IP love that I was talking about with The Witcher. If this wasn't Elden Ring, would you feel enamored enough to play something like this? Or say even the other more comparable one, a Frosthaven, or a Descent, the new Legends one. How attached to that aspect of things are you? And again, look in the mirror and talk yourself out of it, maybe, if that is the case. Now, the one I have to say that I've actually been trying to acquire, the second edition Santorini Pantheon, the remake of it. My wife does not like this game. I am enamored with it. I am a huge abstract lover. And so just from that aspect, right, you don't need it because you don't like it. You don't need it because you don't want more abstracts. You don't need it or want it because you don't like abstracts in the first place. It's totally and utterly FOMO. I'm looking over my shoulder. I freaking want it. And I can't help myself. So I like the idea of the puzzles that are going along with it as much as I used to talk myself out of it incorrectly during previous videos when I was mentioning it. And I have a feeling that I, unfortunately, am not going to follow my own advice with this one, and I'm going to end up with a copy of it before the end of the year. That being said, you know what? I give kudos to Rocksleeve, because this is a game where when this original Santorini game came out before they picked it up, it was basically wooden cubes that looked ugly as sin. And they made it appealing to the masses by putting a cute chibi-esque style Greek gods on it. And they've gone with it now with, what, I don't know, 3 crowdfunding campaigns. So will I be able to get rid of my old one? Probably not. Will I still stop me from getting the new one? Probably not. But again, it's an abstract with a theme. Yes, some of the god powers may have that slight adjacent feeling, but overarchingly, it's a little bit of, ah, crap, I missed that, or ah, crap, you're just better at this than me and I may never win. Even with the powers providing some more balancing in that regard. And that was the main criticism the first time around. And that also is the irritating thing, I guess, as the don't bait it, right? Is because you didn't do a good enough job balancing the powers the first time around that you had to make a second edition because some of them were just completely and mother freaking effing broken. So that's not super enthralling, because now it makes me go, are you sure this time that they're really balanced? Are you sure that it's going to stop me from getting it? Probably not. Again, don't do what I do. Speaking of remakes you don't need, though, Asmodee put out another innovation. Innovation Ultimate. So in case you had the previous Innovation Penultimate, wasn't actually called that, but that is the situation. They revised cards, they added all 5 expansions, they even threw in a new expansion. They made many, many updates, improved the language, and they streamlined it. So how many times can you rework a game and put it all under one shelf, roof, box, whatever it may be, and feel like your edition is the one that's, well, not obsolete, potentially, in these cases? And I think that was the big crowdfunding issue, is you have a lot of people like myself who maybe had a previous edition, and you're going, do I really? Is it really that much better? I don't. And oh man, but they're telling me it is. And truth be told, the honest answer is no. The other side of things is you're not going to play innovation enough to even qualify justifying owning a $5 copy of the original because of how our hype hotness cycle and repeated play situation works in general. Because the base game alone has more replayability than pretty much any other game on this list, or any game I've maybe even talked about at retail so far in total for 2025. And so, do you need 6 additional expansions to go along with that? It sort of reminds me similarly, another one that I've been pseudo trying to trade for, a 51st Master Ultimate Edition State Pantheon Game Found Super Deluxe Edition, if you will, where the difference between like the Game Found Edition and the non-Game Found Super Ultimate Deluxe Edition is like 1 or 2 minor expansions. At the same time, I can't see myself pulling the plug on wanting to try and get it because I just feel incomplete in that regard. And that's, I guess, more indicative of good marketing than anything else, and a little bit of my own personal struggle as a whole, which again, I know that you guys aren't like me. You guys don't struggle like I do. Do you? I hope so, because I hope I'm not alone. But that's what my concern is with this one, and this is one of the best games of all time. It's just, do you need all the other stuff to go along with it? Now, transparency again on this one. When Brotherwise Games went back to Boss Monster and slapped the Super NES logo and design style on it and called it Super Boss Monster, I kind of said Boss Monster was one of the first games I ever played in this hobby, and I freaking hated it. So when they came back and got 14,000 plus backers and $1.3 million, I was colored shocked, if you will. But I also said, wait a second. You're doing it sort of like a couple of these other companies and games have done in the recent past, where you're slapping the same name on it, but at the same time, with the description, you are literally telling me brand new mechanics. And so it's more appealing from the name brand. There is absolutely no opinion on it right now on Board Game Geek. 48 ratings at the time of me filming this, which leaves a lot to be desired in terms of, is this actually better as a side-scrolling improvement? The jury is still out. Did you overcomplicate the Boss Monster situation in the first place? Did you get far enough away from the formula that they tried, tested, and trued, as well as a pretty big retail seller, I think? Or did you overcomplicate, overfiddly, and increased setup, teardown, and all of the in-between to take away the simplicity that maybe if this was a game that you were a huge fan of originally, that now has strayed a little bit further? For the little bit of stuff that's out there at the time of me filming this, is that even though it disclaims that there are going to be new mechanics, it's still relatively reliant on the card randomization, but giving it a little bit of added depth of strategy. I'd say that the problem is potentially that it's not going to be as far away from Boss Monster in the first place. If you were not a fan of it, it's not going to change your mind in that sense. It's an updated series that makes it smoother, gives you a little bit more mitigation, but overarchingly, as I was wondering earlier, probably not a departure from what made it previously. So from my standpoint right now, this one, whether you were a fan or you were not a fan, it screams to me, try before you buy. Then we have another remake of a remake, and we get a new edition of Great Western Trail in the form of El Paso. I'm not going to refer to the salsa commercial right here, but getting your finest cattle to the market in half the play time. As with Terra Nova to Terra Mystica, the overarching opinion right now seems to be that less is, well, less. That they've cut some things out, tried to streamline it, but it does not capture the magic and the beauty of the original. Hence the 6.9 right now rating on Board Game Geek with 500 ratings at the time of me filming this. Easier to teach, but no reason to own, especially if you have one of the previous 3 iterations. Less interaction, a little less randomness in terms of figuring out what is the most optimal move. So again, not quite getting the spirit of, apparently, per comments, what people were hoping for with a lighter version of it in the first place. So we'll see what happens. But again, with these successful IPs, just like with anything pandemic, Ticket to Ride, or anything that large or that has spawned already that many iterations, we'll probably see another in the future, regardless of how well or not this one does. And then Shinjuku, a game that isn't even available in North America right now. I saw it over on Cardboard East, and it's supposed to be somewhat distributing in North America later this year, and potentially even later this month, but I thought I'd mention it as a game that I usually don't have any interest in, with a mechanic of pick up and deliver, network, and route building with hand management, building stores in Tokyo and rail lines to connect them so you can build the biggest conglomerate. You get location cards, draw them. It sort of gives me an On the Underground vibe in a different way. And again, I don't need any more On the Underground. I already have both copies of the game in the first place, so why would this be any different? Is it just shiny, fancy, new in a different locale? Probably, that's why it is. And at the time of me filming this, I can't get a copy for under $130, so that would be FOMO driven in the first place. But if someone in North America picks it up, okay, $45, maybe worth a look-see. But that would be my main comparison with those other mechanics of the mentions that I just had for the other games. Is it going to be significantly different to make you feel like, well, again, if I get this, is it going to be superior to the other ones and I want to get through the other ones? Or is it going to fall flatter than the pancakes that my 9-year-old who is learning to cook makes currently? No idea. But that is your retail and why you maybe shouldn't get anything at that side of things this month. I have a Patreon. I am going to be sprucing it up here. I would love your support. Comments, questions, or concerns down below. Have a great freaking fantastic day. Stay classy out there. Peace out.